It'll ban cleaning your guns, disassembling guns, changing barrels. It will restrict the shipping of guns outside the U.S. and guns into the United States. But people don't believe us, even when we link to the treaty. So I wanted to, right now, before I come back and go to calls, maybe I can settle down if we play this, go ahead and get into this, and we'll continue with calls after it. I'm going to play just a little bit of this. The whole clip's linked up on Infowars.com from YouTube right now, and you can go there and link through the treaty itself as well. Rights under assault, foreign access to U.S. gun registry. And they make you fingerprint to be a gun dealer, and then that goes in the UN database. In 2000, they signed a world treaty where all driver's license, all IDs, all this stuff is a worldwide database set by the UN. The UN is in control of the swine flu response, and they're bragging, oh, this is good for global government, a good test, as the nations follow their orders. And who owns the UN? The private bankers, who are openly setting up the Bank of the World, who just stole your $12.8 trillion out of the U.S. alone, another $10 trillion out of other nations. Private banks tax you. Private banks have taken over. Here's Lou Dobbs. Well, you know what? Yeah, we'll start it now and come back in a minute. Here it is.
A renewed effort tonight that could curtail our Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms if President Obama has his way. He wants the Senate to ratify a little-known treaty that would create a national registry for guns. Under that treaty, other nations would be able to identify gun owners in the United States. Bill Tucker has our report.
President Obama went to Mexico and brought back a 12-year-old treaty.
I'm urging the Senate in the United States to ratify an inter-American treaty known as SIFTA to curb small arms trafficking that is a source of so many of the weapons used in this drug war.
The treaty signed by President Clinton in 1997 was never ratified by the Senate. It calls for the institution of a regime of gun control never before seen in the United States, creating a gun registration system that would be open to international sharing. Offenders would be prosecuted under treaty law, and they would be eligible for extradition. Proponents like Senator Dick Lugar are urging passage, saying, quote, we should consider ratifying during this Congress.
Think about the magnitude of that. Americans are now being extradited to Germany if they say the Holocaust didn't happen, or that 5,999,000 people were killed by Hitler. Hitler killed millions. He was a bad guy. I don't even disagree with that. Even if you think 10 million people were killed by Hitler, let's say 100 million, whatever. It's your First Amendment or free speech right to say that. But they set the precedent with that, with these treaties. Well, you're not for Nazis, are you? And the next it's, oh, you're denying global warming. They want, if you deny man-made climate change now, the European Union is trying to pass a law to arrest you. See? Oh, you're for that? You see how this is happening? Oh, you violated a gun law in Germany. In the U.S., you're going to Germany. There's a tactic that these mind controllers, these lawyers, these dirtbags running society, these corporatists use. They don't care if 91% of Americans want to control the borders. They leave them open. They don't care if 80+% want the war to end. It continues. They don't care if 98% in every major poll, some cases higher, some cases it was 100%, some polls, were against the banker takeover, bailout. They do it. But they also will lie and deny. We had RAND Corporation, UN documents, Club of Rome documents, CFR documents going back 20, 30 years. You can just go to the CFR.org private group and Google world government, and you'll read hundreds of articles the last year saying, world government, we're going to take your guns, we're going to tax you, we're going to have carbon taxes. But when they go on the news, they'll say it's a conspiracy theory, it doesn't exist. And Obama does this same thing. No, there's no plan for North American Union. It's been set up since 2005. We're under it, under treaty. I mean, officially. The documents are public. And they will say none of this exists. Oh, there's no plan. You know, conspiracy theorists claim that international bankers are setting up a world government run by them and that you'll pay taxes to them. Then now hundreds of articles, Time Magazine, Newsweek, the Wall Street Journal, you've all read it. A world government run by private banks because they're bankers and they know how to stop banking crises when they engineered it. Literally, Larry Summers runs the things in the White House with Geithner, and they engineer what happened in the 90s that we're living in right now. I mean, you got to love it. And they say doesn't exist. No such thing as New World Order. No such thing as private global cartels. No such thing. No such thing. And they keep saying, oh, this is crazy conspiracy. There's no plans for guns. We don't want your Second Amendment. There's all these crazy paranoid people. Record gun sales. They're nuts. Obama comes out and says, believe me, I don't want your guns. And they run out and buy more. Record gun sales. It's double anything it's ever been now since he won the election, 5-6 months straight. That's about 6 months now. Because people read the bills he introduced in Illinois for total gun bans. They read what his attorney general called for, his deputy attorney general. Total gun ban. Nothing, gone. No Second Amendment. Does that insult anybody that he said he wouldn't hire any lobbyists, that's all he hired, or get us out of Iraq and he's expanded it? Or that he would do this, and that, or he would give the detainees rights and didn't? Everything he says is a lie. Even if you agree with the guy. You got to kind of look around and find out what he's really doing instead of what it is you think you're agreeing with. And I'm not saying vote for the new Republican they're going to try to shove down our throat in 3 or 4 years. Rick Perry or something for president. It'll be the same thing. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Stop focusing on the puppets. And folks, I have read the Unidentification treaties. Let me give you the date. One of them. The big meeting they had in New York City. Passed the treaty in most of the world. U.S. hadn't passed it yet. They're trying to pass it right now. What was it? It was July 7th, 2001. Unidentification meeting in New York. And they said small arms illicit traffic means all civilian-owned guns, and that all guns must be banned, that civilian ownership of firearms threatens the legitimate power monopoly of the state. Power monopoly. They say the legitimate. They believe what Hitler believed, or Mao, or Stalin, that the state should have a monopoly of power. Now, the Romans had that. The Aztecs had that. The Nazis had that. The Chi-Coms have that. Fidel Castro has that. The East Germans have that. Stalin had that. The Japanese shoguns had that. Slaves couldn't own swords, and they couldn't own arrows. They couldn't own bows. They couldn't own spears. You got it. It's real simple, folks. And I finish up with Lou Dobbs, because I'm playing this clip because people don't believe me. They won't go to Infowars.com 2 weeks ago when we wrote an article about how he's reintroduced the treaty. And it's got a good chance of passing. And I guess as they're coming for your guns, the cops will be loudspeakering. We're not taking your guns. We're just confiscating them. I tell you, I've had enough of this, folks. And let me tell you, go ahead and play the clip.
Urging passage, saying, quote, we should consider ratifying during this Congress the Inter-American Convention against illicit manufacturing of and trafficking in firearms, ammunitions, explosives, and related materials. Gun rights activists are incensed.
It reflects a deep distrust that the government of the United States has had toward the people, that somehow we need to be regulated because of other people's inability to have a peaceful and orderly society?
Which cuts to the deep distrust that some gun owners have for government in general and specifically for this administration. President Obama, as a senator, consistently supported gun control legislation. His Attorney General, Eric Holder, is also in favor of gun control. But one strong supporter of the Second Amendment in the Senate is determined to see the president does not get his wish.
The president said it is a very high priority for him to get this treaty that takes away our Second Amendment rights ratified by the Senate. It is a very high priority for me to make sure that this treaty never gets ratified by the United States Senate, and we will find the votes to defeat it.
Gun control is an issue that the Democratic congressional leadership has not been eager to embrace just yet, but that is what has gun rights groups concerned about this treaty. It isn't being presented as gun control. Instead, Lou, it's being presented as an international treaty that has been ratified by 29 other countries, so therefore it must be right that we ratify it as well.
Well, I don't know what do you mean it must be right? Because 29 other countries don't have a Second Amendment or a Constitution.
Correct, and that seems to be President Obama's logic.
This is an international treaty. We're fools if we don't pay attention to what is being done before our very eyes, and that's what is taking place. And no one can blame President Obama. We have only ourselves to blame, because he's made it very clear, as has his Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer in the country. They just want to do a few things with gun laws, like take them away in large measure. Bill Tucker, thank you very much.
Yeah, in fact, folks, and that's up on Infowars.com, you want to see it. Folks, we have a link to the stinking thing. It says, it has the definitions of explosives. Ammo, You take the MIAC report that we first broke and the DHS report, we broke. All that news you heard, if you're a new listener, about how the veterans are the number one terror threat along with gun owners and conservatives, we're the ones. We get sent those by the state police and the FBI. I just got sent something by an FBI agent Wednesday that I've been too busy to put up and write an article about, but that's coming the next few days. Wait till you see this. It's worse than everything you've ever seen. Sent to me by the FBI, by good people inside there. Ladies and gentlemen, the globalists are taking this nation over. They're saying the American people are terrorists. They're saying Homeland Security and this whole police state grid they built is for the American people. It's not for Al-Qaeda. If you don't know Al-Qaeda was set up by the CIA to attack the Russians in '79 to start that war, and you don't know they used them to attack the Serbs in the late 90s, and you don't know about arms for hostages and all that, fine. But at least you should admit they're now going to use the anti-terror system and the federalization takeover against you, because they know you're not going to like 80% taxes, as the UN and the OECD and the Ex-Im Bank and the International Bank of Settlements and all of them have said.